Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Preimesberger, editor of eWEEK. Thank you very much for joining us for this latest segment of eWEEK eSPEAKS. It's a series of informal conversations with IT thought leaders from all over the spectrum of the tech business. Our interviewee today is Christina van Houten. Christina is Chief Strategy Officer of Mimecast, which is a security company that does a few things, starting with email security and some other things too. So Christina, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And
really happy to be here.
It's very appropriate that you're here during the week of International Women's Day, which is coming up very soon. And I'm glad you're with us today. We don't interview that many women in tech, and I'm glad to have you.
Oh, great. I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for spending time with me.
Sure. Tell me a little bit about your background and then also about Mimecast. At the high level, what Mimecast does. I think some people do, but maybe they don't understand the full depth of what Mimecast does.
Sure. I'm a at least 20-year technology veteran in enterprise technology. Before joining Mimecast, I was with several different large and small enterprise software companies that really transcended every vertical focus and every major product category. And Mimecast approached me just over 3 years ago. I'm about to have my 3-year anniversary. And it's just been a really incredible company to be a part of at an exciting inflection point, both in cybersecurity and Mimecast lifecycle. When I joined, the company was primarily focused on being an email security and archive provider and a complement to Microsoft 365 and Exchange primarily. And over the 3 years that I've been here, we've really expanded our offerings and our mandate in the way that we can help customers in all sorts of ways, both through some acquisitions that we've done to fortify our core intellectual property around efficacy and our cybersecurity layer, and as well as entirely new solution categories like awareness training, DMARC, brand exploit protection, digital risk protection. And we've introduced a whole new web security product that's evolving in all kinds of interesting ways to be purpose-built to protect things like Slack and Teams and Zoom and OneDrive and Box and Dropbox. And particularly, these were all things that were emerging before the pandemic, but with work from home, work from everywhere, our ability to kind of look at a user's day in the life and the activities they're engaged in, and really safeguarding those both from a global threat landscape perspective as well as a global compliance landscape perspective is really turning out to be an important thing for organizations that, for the most part, are not in the business of security and compliance. They want to take care of patients. They want to serve citizens. They want to make cool products. So they're looking for someone who can solve that challenge for them around risk management in a more holistic, economical way. And that's been our focus, is to do that, to go beyond solving more of a point problem to solving a more holistic one.
That's great. And I want to come back to Mimecast in just a second, and also International Women's Day and your involvement with that from your standpoint. But you kind of modestly skipped over your background, in which you worked for Oracle, Infor, Netezza, some really interesting companies. What are some of the elements that you take with you to Mimecast from that background? For example, Oracle. What was it that you took with you that you have today as a result of working at Oracle? Great company.
Yeah, really, all of those experiences provided me something unique. You think once you got to a certain size as a technology company, they would all start to look the same. But it's been fascinating to see how the operating models, the language, the way that people produce software, their manufacturing process, and the way they go to market is really unique in each of those situations. And so being able to bring all of that breadth to a company and a space that is really less mature. It's a much higher growth space. There's been a huge proliferation of companies in the cybersecurity space as this problem has been emerging and becoming more and more complex, and lots of different product category areas that are that are really morphing. What is one distinct category that's being solved one year, maybe all of a sudden is blending into two or three. And that's actually what happened also in the core enterprise technology space over the last 20 years. And so one of the things that our CEO, Peter Bauer, was interested in about my background is that he felt like this cybersecurity category was ripe for the same sort of evolution that the ERP space had been undergoing for the last decade or two. And that while we had lots of amazingly strong, deep domain around cybersecurity and governance, risk, and compliance around data protection and continuity, that this kind of broader lens of the evolution of a category and an industry could bring value to that deeper domain within the space. And so that has helped me see the problems and opportunity and what the customer might be looking for, what the economic value prop is, and not just the core protection piece of it in a broader way. And knowing that organizations, they want to stay safe. We were talking about this before we started. There's always this ongoing trade-off between risk and safety and productivity. And companies need to be able to remain fast and competitive and agile. And a lot of these systems, while they're just can be really mission critical for safeguarding really important intellectual property and dynamic communications that are going on between all of your stakeholders, you want them to not get in the way of progress and productivity and the daily lives of your individual stakeholders, and then also just the organization as a whole.
Yeah, there's something to be said, and we're seeing it too, about the platform approach as opposed to point products. It used to be that you'd buy a specific product for a specific purpose, but it just gets too complicated. You have to have experts in all of those to run them well. To be able to put them on a platform and make them usable by line of business people is really important. I think Mimecast does that, I think, and is very good at it. So let's talk about the International Women's Day. You've written a couple books and a blog about women in tech. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. It was probably it was right before my 50th birthday, and I had a colleague who had kind of turned into a coach over time on the sideline say, I think you need to write a book. I've kind of watched you over the years and how your career has evolved. And I think you have something to offer other women who are trying to understand how to navigate the workplace. And it was a male colleague, and he said, I think one of the secrets to your success has been the way that you've been able to forge relationships with men in constructive ways and read men well, and then from that use that as an advantage to build strong relationships, be included in the room, and be part of the decision-making processes. And so my first book was called Men at Work, A Career Girl's Guide to Navigating Male Archetypes. And it starts with this, you may have heard that there's an old adage that there are only 7 stories in the world, and they get rehashed over and over again, and you can tie everything back to those 7. I posited that we've all had that feeling like, I've met this guy before, and while there's some danger in overgeneralizing that, there's something powerful in really understanding a type of personality and what motivates them, and how you can see them so that you can relate to them and be successful with them. And so that was the first book, and then I wrote a second one, and then I have a third one in the works. They're all kind of similar. They're guidance for women navigating all phases of their career based on my experiences in storytelling. And I also, beyond the books, I just felt like there was some other interesting topics and the opportunity to create a more agile mentor platform that matched supply and demand. Most of the women I know are really busy, and they'd like to give back more. But it's hard when you're traveling quite a bit in a lot of jobs these days. And also you might be looking for, you may be the only person that does the job that you do. And so if you're limiting yourself to mentors that are just in your immediate environment, you may not be able to capture something that you might find if you were able to look more broadly online. So I corralled a lot of amazing women that I knew through my personal and professional networks, and not just in tech, actually in medicine and other architecture and other careers as well. And it's been a lot of fun. We set up like a shopping cart. It's free, obviously, but it provides this conduit for younger women, or even women who are older, who are at maybe a transition point in their career, to have a really productive call and get some guidance from somebody that's objective about preparing for an interview or going back to school, or maybe making a pivot in their career in one way or another. So it's been a lot of fun. I think I'm now in my third year. I have a couple of young women who partnered with me on it, and I'm really glad I did it. It's brought me a lot of joy. I think it's helped a lot of women at different phases of their career, and there are a whole bunch of other things I'd love to do with it someday when I'm not doing another day job. But for now, it's serving its purpose pretty well.
Yeah. How can people find it online? The
URL is just womenatwork.com, WOMENATWORK.com.
Very good. So they can look for it there. Appreciate that. That's great. Thank you for all that and for what you're doing there. I think that's really valuable. Are you a fan of Sheryl Sandberg's book, Lean In, from a couple of years ago?
Yes, I have read it. Yeah, actually, I went to Georgetown, and the woman who runs her foundation, who's just a really brilliant gal, who's a partner of hers, was also at Georgetown. So I've ended up running into her at quite a few things, and yeah, they not just the book, but I think their whole platform has really, I think, done a lot for so many women over the last 5 or so years that it's been around.
All right, well, our time's up. Christina Van Houten, Chief Strategy Officer of Mimecast Security Company. Thank you very, very much for spending some time with us today.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed seeing you.
I enjoyed the conversation. And for everybody following along with us to the end here, thank you very much. Have a great rest of your week. Thanks for joining us on eWEEK eSpeaks. Go to eWEEK.com to hear more conversations with IT thought leaders.